Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bridget Parker, and I'm the Vice President of Development, which means fundraising at Children's Hospital Foundation of Manitoba. I'm so pleased to welcome you all to this special celebration of research, rare diseases, and resilience, and the impact that donors like you have on the lives of kids and their families. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are on Treaty 1 land and that the land in which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Today's event will be a conversation with Dr. Cheryl Rockman-Greenberg and two families she's worked closely with over the years. It's going to be so exciting. So we have with us Amy and Leanne Tinsley, who made history when they came to Winnipeg for treatment from Ireland in 2008, and Alex and Melanie Chief, siblings who are now in their 20s and have been cared for by Dr. Rockman-Greenberg since they were just wee. We're going to open it up to questions in a while. Please use the chat function if you would like to ask a question, and we will get to as many of them as we can. But first, I'd like to introduce Stefano Grande, President and CEO of the Foundation, and Nicola Weigel, Chief Operating Officer of Children's Hospital Research Institute of Manitoba, to share a bit more about who we are, what we do, and why you play such an important role in our collective success. Stefano?
Thanks, Bridget, and hello, everyone. It's so great to be here today. 2021 marks the 50th anniversary of the Foundation. All year, we have been celebrating 50 years of community impact. Today, we have the opportunity to dig deeper into an area that is often a little bit more abstract. Today, you'll meet some of the people who can provide real-life testimony to the power and tenacity and curiosity that drives research for kids. When the foundation started in 1971, it was called the Children's Hospital Research Foundation of Manitoba. Most funds raised were invested in pediatric research taking place at the University of Manitoba and in the Children's Hospital itself. Clinician scientists like Dr. Rockman-Greenberg have been at the forefront of research that addresses the needs of our specific populations here in Manitoba. This commitment to understanding local communities and trying to solve important issues continues today at CRIM. Nicola will tell you more about that in a few minutes. From the earliest days of the Foundation's history right up to today, donors like you have embraced the need to understand and respond, supporting the key role research plays in unlocking some of the greatest medical mysteries of our times. Together with frontline staff in the hospital, this research has direct and immediate impact on 130,000 kids who get care at the Health Science Center Children's Hospital each year, as well as kids around the world who benefit from the tremendous collaborations between our scientists and caregivers and their peers internationally. In fact, right now, researchers at CRIM are playing leadership roles in the fight against COVID-19. From evaluating drugs for treatment to helping parents and kids cope with mental health impacts of uncertainty, to assessing how many kids showing no symptoms of the disease at all are impacted by COVID-19. Teams at CRIM are leading national and international studies to understand the most significant health crisis in a generation. So your support helps make this happen. I know you are as excited as I am to hear from Dr. Rockman-Greenberg and to meet the families. So I will simply say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for believing in the power of curiosity and discovery. Thank you for your generosity. I now would like to introduce to you my colleague, Nick Weigel, Chief Operating Officer of CRIM, to tell you a little bit more about our incredible research institute. Nicola.
Thank you, Stefano. And welcome, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. On behalf of the Children's Hospital Research Institute of Manitoba, on a personal note, I joined the Institute in 2008 when the conversation and the requirements to bring baby Amy to Winnipeg. Amy's not a baby anymore, and that's just a phenomenal thing to see. So I'm very excited to be here. This will be the first time seeing you, Amy, since you came into the Institute came into Winnipeg in 2008. And it's just incredible to even peripherally be a part of that journey. So thank you for being here today. It's very, very inspiring. A little bit about the Research Institute. Our Research Institute has seen tremendous growth since we established in 2001. So as Stefano said, the foundation is celebrating 50 years and also 50 years investment in research. The Institute was formalized in 2001. So the Institute as an entity is only 20 years young, as opposed to this phenomenal commitment that the foundation has made over the past 50 years and continues to make today with the help of our donors. At the Institute, we have over I now can comfortably say over 300. Our notes say 270 world-class investigators and staff, but we've had phenomenal growth in the last year. It's amazing to me that during a pandemic, we onboarded 61 new staff and investigators into the Institute in the past year alone. So we are over 300 in the Institute supporting research, over $20 million worth of research that is supported throughout the Institute every year. So CRIM is the first research facility dedicated exclusively to child health in the Prairie provinces. We bring together researchers from a variety of health disciplines with a common goal of improving the health of children and youth. By including a wide range of disciplines, CRIM has the unique ability to look at the overall picture of child health and family health, including parents and the maternal health interface, not just one area. So it's a very unique environment. The Institute fosters collaborations in an innovative research environment, offering hope to children and their families as researchers work towards medical breakthroughs and treatments for childhood illnesses. With Manitoba having the largest Indigenous population across Canada, we've developed lasting relationships and work closely with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis families and partner organizations in an effort to improve child health outcomes in a variety of areas. We're very focused on child health. It's about the child, and every child matters. Our work is focused around 3 research themes, which align to the health and development of children growing in Manitoba and Nunavut. So this work is very relevant to the needs of our specific communities. We have 3, but as we've discussed, we're growing. There's more to come. There's 3 more on the horizon. So these research themes bring together fundamental or basic science researchers together with clinicians and population health scientists to collaborate and work together on research projects that tackle an overarching health concern. Currently, the 3 themes are the biology of breathing, focusing on research in pulmonary disorders. Often it's the first time a child visits our hospital is in relation to an asthma and allergy scenario. We have DREAM, diabetes research envisioned and accomplished in Manitoba. It supports research involving type 2 diabetes and diabetes complications in youth and is making important discoveries that will lead to better prevention and treatments. Type 2 diabetes is the fastest growing chronic illness in Canada, and Manitoba has one of the highest rates of type 2 diabetes in children in the world. Manitoba and CRIM have become one of the world's top research centers in type 2 diabetes. In 2020, we launched our 3rd theme, Enrich, which stands for Excellence in Neurodevelopment and Rehabilitation Research in Child Health. There's a saying there about children and surviving. We want to focus on children thriving. It's not just about surviving, it's about thriving. So this new theme combines interdisciplinary research and cutting-edge knowledge translation with the goal of improving the quality for thousands of children and families who need pediatric neurodevelopment and rehabilitation services in Manitoba, Central Nunavut, and Northern Ontario. So outside of these themes, there's several other areas in the Research Institute, teams and health areas being studied, including work that you will hear about today from Dr. Rockman-Greenberg, who is truly someone that I admire, and I'm thrilled to walk the halls each day and get a chance to cross paths with individuals like Cheryl, who inspire me as an administrator to be a part of this process and to really feel inspired every day when I come to work, and to be inspired when I'm on calls like this, when I see people like Amy and Melanie and Alex, where we truly have our impact. So our researchers are not only committed to the research they do, but as I said, to the communities and the often rural and remote from all over Manitoba that work together with our study participants and advisors and patients. As our programs and research community grows, we've been able to support these brilliant minds through a variety of grant and award competitions. Our operating grant competition recently this year was $400,000. So it's a phenomenal $400,000 investment, which comes from the foundation. It is phenomenal to me that in times of a pandemic, when people are really focusing and have to really take note of where they are, that individuals in our community and donors are coming forward and they're supporting this tremendous work for children, even in a pandemic, which just shows you the support that we need and the leadership that is taken. For every dollar invested in CRIM in research, CRIM realizes at least a $5 return on our investment. With that, I'd like to conclude by saying thank you to everyone on this call today for joining for what I'm sure will be an inspiring story. I am inspired to be here, as I said earlier, and also for your continued support in child health research at CRIM. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Nick and Stefano. Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our very own Dr. Cheryl Rockman-Greenberg. She may hail from Montreal, but we claimed her as a Manitoban in 1979 and we couldn't be happier. So prepare for this introduction because she has accomplished a lot in her time working with us. Dr. Rockman-Greenberg obtained her medical degree from McGill University in 1974. She became a fellow of the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada, in pediatrics in 1979 and medical genetics in 1996. She has been a fellow of the Canadian College of Medical Geneticists since 1982. Dr. Greenberg served as medical director of child health program for WRHA and HSC Winnipeg Children's Hospital and head of the Department of Pediatrics and Child Health, University of Manitoba from 2004 to 2014. Dr. Rockman-Greenberg has practiced as a clinical and metabolic geneticist in Winnipeg since 1979. She is currently a clinical scientist in CRIM and holds an academic rank of distinguished professor in the Department of Pediatrics and Child Health and Biochemistry and Medical Genetics at the University of Manitoba. Dr. Rockman-Greenberg's contributions to the continuum of science start with the clinical problems, establishing relationships with families and unique communities, and working to translate discoveries into effective patient care programs. Dr. Rockman-Greenberg was named to the 2012 list of Canada's most powerful women, top 100 in the Trailblazers and Trendsetters category. She received the Founders Award for Excellence in Medical Genetics from the Canadian College of Medical Geneticists in 2017. She was introduced into the Canadian Medical Hall of Fame in April 2018 for leadership in health promotion, illness prevention, and care, and into the Order of Manitoba in July 2018. And then in December 2020, she was appointed to the Order of Canada. Whew! We are so fortunate to have her as part of our community and part of our province. In addition to all of that, Dr. Rockman-Greenberg is also a long-serving member of the Foundation's Board of Directors, including as chair of the Honorary Directors Council, and is an all-round excellent human being. We are thrilled to have her today with us. Dr. Rockman-Greenberg, I wonder if you could begin by sharing a bit more about who you are, what brought you to Winnipeg, and what has kept you here. What motivates you to continue working with kids and families on rare diseases and disorders?
Hello. Hi. Thank you, Bridget. Thank you, Stefano. Thank you, Nicola. And all my foundation and CRIM colleagues and friends. At that introduction, I honestly don't want to spend too much time talking about myself because we have stories to hear that are truly memorable. I'm so honored to have been asked to participate in this wonderful event. As Bridget mentioned, I was born and I was raised in Montreal, and I did my training in Montreal. And I knew I wanted to be a doctor and researcher for patients and families with rare genetic disorders very early on in my training. I was fortunate to land my first job in Winnipeg at the Children's Hospital and at the University of Manitoba. I want to emphasize that I came here by choice and not by chance. The environment here for me to practice metabolic genetics and to pursue my research career was perfect then, and it truly remains perfect 41 years later to today. A large part of this has to do with the environment at the hospital, at the Children's Hospital Foundation, and at the Children's Hospital Research Institute. The focus is and always been what is near and dear to my heart, to enhance the health of children. I'm thrilled that Amy, Alex, and Melanie can share their stories with you. Their stories truly have to be told. Their stories are truly inspiring. This past weekend, we reflected 20 years post 9/11, and every day we continue to be challenged by the global COVID-19 pandemic. But to get ready for today and for everybody to meet Amy, Alex, and Melanie, just like post 9/11, and just like we are doing today to combat COVID-19, Winnipeg came together to save the lives of these young people. Led by the foundation, by CRIM, everybody came together. The hospital administration, all levels of government, doctors, nurses, pharmacists, respiratory therapists, dietitians, physiotherapists, and I hope I have not forgotten anybody. Winnipeg is a very special place to work and live, and it's a place where I have stayed. Today is my way of remembering the past, seeing Amy, Alex, and Melanie looking so fantastically, and reminding people what a jewel we have here at the foundation, at the Research Institute, and at CRIM, one of which keeps getting better and better. So I think I'm going to stop now, Bridget, and hopefully we'll hear the stories that we really all need to hear.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Rockman-Greenberg. Stefano mentioned the research legacy on campus earlier, and we're about to explore into that a little bit with more detail. Back in 1935, Dr. Bruce Chown, who famously discovered RH and whose research has had life-saving impacts on women and babies around the world, and funded in part by St. Agnes Guild, a precursor to the Children's Hospital Foundation Guild, first identified a rare and fatal disorder that seemed to be much more common in Manitoba's Mennonite community. What he called renal rickets later became known as hypophosphatasia, which is a genetic metabolic disorder characterized by soft, weak bones, muscle weakness, achy bone pain, fractures, early tooth loss, and in its severe form, death. Amy Tinsley was diagnosed with hypophosphatasia in the months after she was born in 2008. As the first infant in the world accepted to take part in a clinical trial for hypophosphatasia under compassionate grounds, Amy and her family traveled to Winnipeg to be cared for by Dr. Rockman-Greenberg. I'd like to welcome Leanne, Amy's mom, and Amy, joining us all the way from Ireland today. It is dinner time, so she didn't get to miss any school, but that's okay. We appreciate her being here. Thank you so much. You made history back in 2008. We would love to learn more about your journey, what it was like to come to Winnipeg, although Amy, you may not have too many memories from that first trip, and how you've been doing in the years since. Leanne and Amy?
Hi, thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation to share our story to mark such a big event of 50 years of the Teaching Hospital of Manitoba. We knew antenatally that there was a problem with Amy that presented very early. In her scans, probably her 12-week scan was the first indication that there was a skeletal problem. We were picking up abnormalities in length and picking up fractures as well. At that time, we suspected osteogenesis imperfecta because they present very, very similar in utero. Then very quickly after Amy was born, she didn't present any of the other symptoms of OI, but presented a few telltale signs of the HPP, for example, dimples on her thighs. But she appeared to be doing quite well up until about 7.5 months old. And then quite suddenly, practically overnight, she developed severe hypercalcemia. We then took her to a local hospital and she was admitted. Bloods and the skeletal survey quickly showed that things were deteriorating rapidly. And I distinctly remember the day the doctor came to us and said, look, this obviously is severe infantile hypophosphatasia, and I'm sorry, but any textbook I left says it's invariably lethal, full stop. So what we were going to he decided to cast the net out worldwide and see was there anything, any clinical trials available, anything that we could do. And surprisingly, he came back to us to say that there was a clinical trial starting somewhere in Canada. Would we be interested in chasing it up? Within about 2 hours, our geneticist come bursting through the door to say he'd found this clinical trial starting in Canada. Would we be interested? So these things don't happen by chance. So we had, I think, about 9 weeks. We arrived in Canada, packed our bags, got organised at home, and off we went into the unknown. But with the backing of our own health service here, they were very enthusiastic and had great confidence that we should go, that it would be worthwhile, and the drug sounded to be quite efficient, something that could benefit Amy. So we arrived in Canada. I was going to say met at the airport by Dr. Greenberg, but I think she didn't even let us get off the airplane. She was straight on. And she was very enthusiastic, very keen to get their hands on this baby to try this treatment. And we were very grateful for the opportunity. We found the people of Manitoba and Winnipeg especially to be very, very kind, welcoming, generous people. Things probably were a bit up and down. The treatment went well. The treatment was proven to be effective. But as one of the paediatricians said to us one day, at that point, Amy was living on a razor blade, and we didn't know which way she was going to fall. The treatment was working, but it wasn't working quick enough. Amy's bones, they got so soft, and she was so exhausted, she wasn't able to feed orally. She was fed through a tube that whole time, and at times she ended up needing help with her breathing through CPAP and BiPAP. The other distinct memory was spending Christmas in Winnipeg in all the snow. And at that time, Amy's health wasn't great. she slowly improved up until her first birthday, which is also celebrated in Winnipeg, the following February. And then shortly after that, things got approved then through Europe and through the UK that we were able to bring Amy home and start to adapt to a new way of life, but with hope for Amy that we wouldn't otherwise have had we not went to Manitoba. And as Dr. Greenberg said, she went to Manitoba by choice, not by chance, and we done the same, and we're really glad we did. I met some lifelong friends as well. Coming back home obviously was difficult. When we were in Manitoba, our life was Amy. We went to Manitoba to be there, to do our best for Amy, but to come home we had to start. And slowly wean away oxygen, wean away the stats monitor, which is a big event. We've been watching it for 6 months, top round, and start to try and introduce food. I think the first day I got a quarter of the yogurt into her that took about 2 hours. But we got there, and it's very special to look back at the time. We have Amy maybe wants to say a wee bit about school and her hobbies and interests and ongoing challenges.
In school, I am in mainstream. School is really good for me. It's good so that I can be normal and have the good education that I'm getting. It's a lot of help with assistance and other things that help me through the corridors so that I don't fall over and get squashed in the crowds, which is very helpful. My hobbies are baking. I enjoy baking a lot. And then my interests, I like nursing. I would like to be a nurse whenever I'm older, a children's nurse. And then my ongoing challenges are neurology and my scoliosis.
Yes, there's a few side effects of the early onset of HPP that Amy will have to live through her teenage years, but hopefully will be resolved. By that stage, I think there hasn't been anything really presented from we left Manitoba. I think Dr. Greenberg sent us off with good advice of what would lie ahead for us, and she was spot on. So yeah, it has been a whirlwind, the time we spent in Canada. And probably there was many of a chat with Dr. Greenberg at all hours of the day. She never missed a day where she was in the facility that she didn't call and see us. And probably was a very big leg in the end. I suppose the hardest part of the whole process was the unknown. Obviously, Amy was the first. We had nothing to go on. We had no advice. And I suppose even from here on, that's still a challenge. We can't really predict too far, but to have Amy beside me here today at 13 years old and to have been told that she would never see her first birthday is phenomenal. Really, we couldn't say any more about the drug than that. The results speak for themselves.
That is absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. And Amy, interestingly, one of my favorite hobbies is eating baking. So we're a match made in heaven. Just a reminder that we will be taking questions shortly, and please use the chat function. We will ask as many of them as we can. So Dr. Rockman-Greenberg's specialty in studying and treating rare diseases and disorders means she works with a wide variety of kids and their families, from before birth through to adulthood. We are delighted to have siblings Alex and Melanie Chief joining us today from Canterbury, Manitoba, also known as Broken Head Ojibwe Nation. Alex and Melanie were both diagnosed with Gaucher's disease, an inherited metabolic condition that weakens bones, enlarges organs, and requires ongoing regular enzyme therapy. Alex was diagnosed at 18 months and Melanie was diagnosed at 3 years. So they have spent their lives working with Dr. Rockman-Greenberg. Welcome to you both. We'd love if you could tell us a bit about your story, what it's been like growing up at the hospital and with a challenging condition, and what your plans are for the future. Melanie, let's start with you.
Okay, hi. Okay, I was diagnosed at age 3. And I guess it was challenging. I remember my parents telling me that I would fall down a lot and I would have a hard time like eating because my spleen was so enlarged. And then finally, it was my spleen that it was hard for me to eat anything, like any solid foods. And it was because of my, I did not have the enzyme called glucocerebrodases, I believe. And the challenging things about the hospital, maybe when I was younger, I stayed in the hospital, but I wasn't really at the hospital, but I would do my home infusions at home. But then I had to go back to the hospital to do infusions. And then my parents were trained to do infusions. And by the time I reached age 11 or 12, that's when I started to grow in the chest area where I had a central line. And now I just do peripheral IV, which is at home through my veins. Like I warm up my hands, and I also pick up my medication, and I'm in my 20s now, so my late 20s. I live on my own with my brother. Yeah, so it's basically that we just do our infusions at home, pick up our medication. What else can I say? Just at the hospital, I just go for regular checkups, like with CT scans, MRIs. I have lots of specialists. I can't even name all of them. And my hopes for the future are, right now, fast forward that it took me a while to get out of high school. I graduated in 2013. I was age 20. I had a hard time because I was in a modified program, and I tried doing other things like my other peers would do, like go to college and stuff like that. I had a hard time writing a paper. I was academically kind of delayed. And then I decided I'll go back to high school, and I went back and replaced adult ed credits. And I finally got at the grade 12 level. And now I'm in university. I'm studying biology of the human concern, academic writing. My hobbies are science. I really like, I was able to study genetics, and I received a high mark at an 80%. at a grade 12 level. So now I'm in university studying. It's like a multidisciplinary, which I'll be studying chemistry, genetics, DNA, cells. And my plans were to become either a nurse someday.
That's wonderful, Melanie. What a wonderful story of perseverance. Alex, how about you?
Hi. I can probably go on about a lot of stories because I've been through quite a lot of stuff. Like I've been through a lot of emergency surgeries. But like Melanie was saying, she's 4 years older than me. So I was diagnosed a year old, about that age. They didn't find that I was diagnosed at that time because they tested the umbilical cord blood, but it came back negative, saying that I didn't have Gaucher's disease. And then the same thing happened with me. My liver started to enlarge. So I got a bell-shaped stomach. And again, I was falling over because of the weight in my abdomen. So my grandmother noticed that when she was always watching me. So they took me to the pediatric doctor, and then he sent me to Health Science Center. And then that's when Dr. Greenberg took me on as her doctor. Like she already had my sister Melanie at that time. And then I went through a portacath so that I can get the infusions. But yeah, like we've been through a lot. I could probably go on more about, like what we've been through, but with Gaucher's disease, like I know that I can do things and I can't do things, but I'm not sure if I'm wrong or not, but I guess Gaucher's has manifested. So it kind of, it takes back those things that we can and can't do. But I have another condition on top of Gaucher's. It's like I said, I think it's just the progression of the disease. My gut doesn't work properly, so I can't get enough the nutrition that I'm taking orally. I have to be on TPN or total preventive nutrition, and I have a portacath again now in my chest. So my day-to-day life is like I have to be hooked up 3 times a week on TPN, and then I come off it. I unhook myself. Like I learned to unhook myself, hypnotize my central venous catheter, and I've been learning how to poke myself. So I get a mirror and I look at my reflection, and I actually have to poke myself with a needle. But my parents do help me sometimes with that. There's one moment in children's too, is when we were becoming of age. My sister was already turning 18, and my mom asked, she was worried that who would be her doctor. And she asked my mom at the appointment, like, is there going to be another doctor, like an adult geneticist? And Dr. Greenberg said no, that there was no other adult doctor that was trained, or there's none available, so that she would take her on still, and they would still be continued under my care. But with the other specialties like neurology and respirology, I remember this one other doctor that we've seen. Her name is Frances Booth, and Mel turned of age. I was still under age, and she continued. And I was still under, I guess, of society of being an adult. So you know, she made that accommodation for us, especially with other doctors that I can go on. You know, I have so many doctors that we've seen because of Dr. Greenberg and her overall care for us. But yeah, like I said, like, you know, there was things that I wanted to do in life, like, but then I look at it now, I probably can't do them now because of my limitations with the disease and what it has, like, overall life has had on us. But like, yeah, I'm going to university, taking online human anatomy and physiology. And like Amy, or like I always wanted to pursue something in the medical field because like, we always basically grew up at health science center, going to appointments, routine checkups and stuff like that. So I was thinking about being a nurse myself too.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Alex. I do think it's interesting that all three of you are so interested in pursuing medicine and helping people. That's wonderful. So we do have a couple of questions for our special guests today. First, I would like to ask each of you, we'll go a bit around the table. And so Dr. Rockman-Greenberg, reflecting on how you felt starting your career, looking back, did you know research could have this much impact in really relatively such a short period of time?
Did I know? Clearly, you know, when I started out here in 1979, you know, the practice of genetics and my field of metabolic genetics was very different. But very, very quickly, you know, the genomics era began, and there have been incredible advances in studying genes. And it became very clear that the technology was going to rapidly change our field. I did not know that we would be able to see treatments for hypophosphatasia or for Gaucher disease, but I certainly hoped that they would be. We always provided supportive care, but to be able to provide the missing enzyme back to these to patients with hypophosphatasia or for Gaucher disease was really a pipe dream in the 80s, but it really became a reality in the 90s for Gaucher disease. And Alex and Melanie were the first children to receive enzyme replacement therapy for Gaucher disease in Manitoba. You know, this was in 1997 and 1998. I didn't know there'd be a definitive treatment, any treatment for hypophosphatasia possible. And when I got that phone call in 2007, did I want to be a site for the treatment of hypophosphatasia? I'd followed the literature. I knew what was happening in the research field, in the animal models, and I knew that clinical trials would be found and would be started. And I'm not surprised that this is how it's evolved, and was just absolutely delighted. But it's still ongoing. Research is ongoing. It's that there are new treatments and new possibilities coming up that Alex and Melanie know of, and Amy and Leanne know of for their disorders. And this will all look different in 10 years from now. So research is really, you know, changing even how we successfully treat their disorders today.
Wonderful, thank you. I do think we have a question from the media now.
We do. So Michelle Gerwing from CTV is going to ask all three of our patients, what inspired you to become a nurse? Why are you looking at this career path? So maybe let's start with Amy and then we'll go Melanie and Alex, just the order that we just did.
I want to be a nurse so that I can help people to help them through. And I just feel like I would know what they want and stuff for like injections. I feel like I would know how to give it and what way they would want it.
Yeah, it's probably personal experience. And it's down to the good experience she's had both in Manitoba and in Belfast and right through the UK at all the hospitals we've attended. Thankfully for us, medicine is a great thing, and as Dr. Greenberg says, is continually evolving, and it's great to be a part of that and to see firsthand the wonderful effects.
Thank you, Amy and Leanne. Melanie, could you answer what inspired you to want to go into medicine?
So I think Melanie and Alex have been bumped out of the call momentarily. So maybe we can just pose the next question that Michelle from CTV had.
Absolutely. So Dr. Rockman-Greenberg, the drug that Amy had for hypophosphatasia, is that now the standard treatment for hypophosphatasia? Does it depend on the condition? Could you kind of elaborate on the actual treatment?
Sure. Well, the clinical trials began in 2008 and they ended in 2016. You know, we brought many children after Amy to Winnipeg for the clinical trials, and the drug became approved on our provincial formularies in 2019, although the clinical trials ended in 2016. So now the enzyme replacement therapy for hypophosphatasia is approved and on our provincial formulary for children with hypophosphatasia who meet the eligibility criteria. In other words, you have to have significant bone disease and meet the criteria, and it is covered on our provincial formularies across Canada. Now, Alex and Melanie's enzyme replacement therapy with, as Melanie mentioned, glucose cerebrosidase was one of the first enzyme replacement therapies ever developed. It's also approved in our formularies, and we have several generations of enzyme replacement therapy that have since come on the market since, but Alex and Melanie remain on the very first product of enzyme replacement therapy for Gaucher disease. There are new options available that we hope to pursue in the future, with respect to new clinical trials as well for Gaucher disease, and hopefully in the future also for hypophosphatasia.
Thank you, Dr. Rockman-Greenberg. And we do have Alex and Melanie back, I believe. So Melanie, we'll start with you. Would you be able to let us know what inspired you to want to go into the medical field to become a nurse?
Okay. Well, back then when I was in high school, I had trouble with sciences. I really did not have an interest in any of the genes or anything like that. And then I finally decided, okay, what am I going to do with my life? I'm 28. I've got to get out of here, got to get moving. What am I going to do with my life? So I figured I go and take biology 30S, and I did not pass it. I took it as a refresher because it was human anatomy and physiology. And I passed with a 70, and that was the mark that I needed to get into university so I can do human anatomy and physiology. Then I figured, okay, maybe I'll take biology 40S, and I got in there and it was so hectic. I didn't know what I was doing. I was thinking, oh, okay, I'll just get out of the class. I didn't know anything about genes, nothing, genetics. And there was lots of statistics, math in there, and I was able to pass with 80%, and I was willing to throw it out the door. So I figured, oh, okay, maybe I have a career in line for these kind of marks. And then I decided, okay, I talked with my sponsor, and he said that you're ready for university level. And as I was registering, I didn't know what I was going to take. And I finally got into biology of the human concerns at the University of Winnipeg. Right now, it's kind of all over the place, so I have to make my notes and kind of do my genetics again. And it's basically I carried on, and I found genetics interesting more than I found cells and cellular processing or cells and plants. So what led me to the healthcare field is that I do want to be able to help others with either the same condition or with others, getting them back to health. And I figured, oh, maybe after I finish nursing, I might pursue a master's or a PhD if my marks are that good. And I'm actually good in sciences and math. I had a lot to prove to nurses and other people that were in the educational field, saying that Melanie is not going to make it. And I decided to push myself, and I didn't really listen. I just went ahead and did what I had to do. And that's what led me to working in the healthcare field, because I'm able to understand the body systems, the genetics, and I just really want to help either my First Nations people or even working in the hospital, working in pediatrics or in an emergency. Yeah.
That's wonderful, Melanie. How about you, Alex?
Yeah, the same thing with me. I was always interested in science. I took science in high school, and then I decided to take science in university. But like I said, nursing, like I looked at other careers like I could go into, but then I thought about it again, saying, you know what, a nurse is the next thing. Like they're at the bedside, and they're the eyes and ears of the doctor. So that's what I took away from it too. Like I could help people in that way as well. I may not impact them like as a doctor would, but I could, be there to help, individuals with their problems that they're having. And I was in one emergency hospital in Falkirk, and this male person, like I assumed he was a doctor, but he was actually a nurse. So they're uncommon, like male nurses are, they're coming up there too. So we need more male nurses in there, like an equal balance, Same thing with doctors, there's an equal balance of females and nurses, female and male doctors in there. So that's why I was looking at nursing, it's it's the next thing to a medical field, to help, make patients feel better and, help them with their, to get them to good health.
Wonderful. Well, we certainly need our nurses, so we appreciate that this is an area of interest for all three of you. So we're coming to almost the close of our hour, so I thought that I would lob out more of a fun question for folks. So do you have a favorite memory of HSC Children's or of Dr. Rockman-Greenberg that you would like to share with the group? So maybe we'll start with Leanne and Amy.
Well, I don't think Amy has any memories really that she can share, being so young. I would have to say the one I referred to earlier about Dr. Greenberg meeting us at the airport. I remember looking out the window and seeing the video camera and the camera. And I'm pretty sure Dr. Greenberg was actually hopping with excitement. She was so enthusiastic, and I also remember distinctly her getting up in the very, very early hours of the morning to drive us back to the airport to see us off home. And the level of care she gave us right through, she even brought us pies into the hospital. I would say also recollect walking through the corridor system at night time to try and protect Amy from any form of infection. We made it to the last call for Starbucks, and we made our way there, nearly like a daily pilgrimage. I also recall the security guards. We had been making our way back and forward to Molly McDonald House, and some of the nurses on the ward advised us that really we shouldn't be walking, that the security guards patrolled the area and they would quite gladly take us home. We had never spent a winter in Winnipeg before, and before beards became fashionably long, we didn't realise that quite a lot of Manitobans grow them out all winter. So come March, when we were ready to leave, we weren't quite sure if it was safer to get into the security guards seat or whether we should just walk home. We weren't used to these big long beards. But yeah, there's lots of, well, I remember our first Christmas with Amy as well, and the level of kindness shown to us in the hospital and Ronald McDonald House certainly was something we didn't expect. So, okay, positive experiences.
That's great. Excellent. Melanie, really quick, do you have a favorite memory?
Of Dr. Greenberg or in the hospital?
Yeah.
I believe there was one favorite memory that we had. I know my mom and Dr. Greenberg talk back and forth. I recently, 2 years ago, I had to have my gallbladder removed, and some of the doctors are afraid to operate on me because of the enlarged organs. So I had to get my gallbladder removed, and she was asking how I was feeling. She said she's kind of drowsy and just like under the care, like my mom would message her and tell her that one of us are either in the hospital and like what do we do, and she's just there to comfort us and inform the doctors what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And I don't know if Dr. Greenberg or anybody knows this. My brother may know it. Since Gaucher's disease, the large organs, I had, they said that I had my gallbladder was the size of an 86-year-old woman. Yeah. So I had that removed. Now I have issues with my digestive system. So yeah. I have to take medications for that. So I'm not sure if Dr. Greenberg knew that or anybody else knows that, but I kind of thought that was interesting.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful that she stays in such close contact with your family. How about you, Alex? Quick memory?
Probably it was the food at the children's hospital when I was admitted there. They wanted to bulk me up on my weight, so I ate everything off my plate. All the other children had wasted their yogurts and stuff like that. So I was the one that cleaned off my my dish because I was malnourished for a long time.
Yeah, wow. Well, a vote of confidence for food in the hospital. That's wonderful. All right, well, thank you so much, everyone. I'd like to invite Mr. Grande to provide some final remarks. Stefano?
Thanks, Bridget. Wow, what an inspiring hour. Educational, eye-opening. Thank you so much, everyone. One of the best parts of my job is getting to meet these resilient and courageous kids and families who have been impacted by care and research at CRIM and at the hospital. That's why we're all here today, to improve the lives of sick kids everywhere. On behalf of the board and all the teams at the foundation and CRIM, I want to thank you for your incredible commitment, generosity, and support. I hope you've seen today how an abstract question like understanding what a gene does has a real life-changing and life-saving effect on people around the world. Dr. Rockman-Greenberg, Leanne, Amy, Melanie, Alex, thank you so much for sharing your stories, your experiences, and most importantly, thank you for sharing with us your dreams. Thanks to each of our audience members who took the time to join us today. If you're interested in learning more about your impact, I encourage you to visit goodbear.ca. You'll read stories about kids like Amy and learn how you can get involved. You can also visit crim.ca to learn more about this jewel that is our research institute, which donors like you have made possible and for which we should all be very proud of. This session today was recorded and will be posted on goodbear.ca tomorrow. So feel free to watch it again and again and again, or share it with others who might be interested. Again, from this deepest place of thanks, thank you, and have a great day.